Second, we ramped up the RPS, the Renewable Portfolio Standard. Every year, you have to buy a certain amount of electric power from renewable sources if you're a utility or a load-serving entity like a retail electric supplier. Used to go up by 0.5% a year, now it goes up by a full % a year, which is a big step up in the amount of green power. Building codes, we now have the most advanced building codes in Massachusetts. Many towns are grappling with the so-called stretch code, and God bless them. When we were first putting it together, I was literally thought not one town, maybe Cambridge, maybe Newton. We'll have a few who do this. There's something like 50 or 60, 70 towns who've now adopted the stretch code. 20% better than the best energy code in the nation. Really pretty exciting stuff. Net metering, the idea that if I generate solar on my roof, as I am doing today, although I've got a little snow on it, so I'm not producing a great deal, but I would buy it off of NSTAR for 15 cents, and then historically I would sell it back to them for the wholesale power price of 7 or 8 cents. That is not a good deal for me as a ratepayer. I would like to buy it and sell it for whatever price I'm paying. Now we can do that under the net metering reforms in Massachusetts. We also did some incentives for combined heat and power, relevant to you all in terms of your work. If you attach it to an anaerobic digestion unit from all that methane you're recovering from your wastewater treatment, you have a great deal in Massachusetts. We give an added incentive under something called the Advanced Energy Portfolio Standard. So you can get an extra incentive for doing combined heat and power, because we recognize from a greenhouse gas standpoint, if you make double use of that methane for both its thermal value as well as its electric potential, you're really essentially cutting your greenhouse gases by a significant amount. And so you see many companies like Veolia Energy now out developing a lot of these combined heat and power systems all around, and that's a great thing, and we're happy to see that happening. Also, in the context of what I would say is an abject failure of leadership from Washington in greenhouse gases, you've seen a lot of states moving forward. So we in Massachusetts, and I said it myself, have a 25% greenhouse gas emissions mandate for reductions below 1990 levels. Not like our friends in California who are messing around with reducing below 2005 levels. We're actually going to reduce back to and substantially below 1990 levels, which is a very exciting challenge. We have a lot of ways to meet that, but you all and your power use is a really important part of that. So what did we do about the energy use at our wastewater and drinking water facilities in Massachusetts? We launched something called boringly named the Energy Management Pilot Project, run by DEP and DOER, and we set out with energy audits for 14 facilities, and we found a great deal of improvements available: variable speed pumps, wind turbines, solar, lighting, you name it. There was a lot of it out there. We got very excited about that, all that cheap money. We went to Carol Browner, my former colleague from the Clinton administration, and pitched her on the idea of, and those who don't like the green infrastructure part of the SRF, I'm sorry about that. That was our idea, something we wanted to do. I'm proud of it. And we asked them, set aside some money to try to prove this out in the Recovery Act. And they did, and they made a bunch of money available. In fact, they set a set-aside of 20% for this energy efficiency, green infrastructure part of it. And a lot of that money, of the $1.7 billion that was spent around the country on green infrastructure, about 45% of that went to things like efficiency and renewables. In Massachusetts, we went beyond our 20%. We spent about $70 million out of our $180 million total for 21 energy projects at drinking water and wastewater facilities. These improvements together will save $76 million in energy costs over the lifetime of the measures, 450,000 tons of CO2, or the equivalent of taking 112,000 cars off the road. And I will say with pride that we had Lisa Jackson, the EPA administrator, come to Deer Island, stand in front of a great big solar installation and talk about this green infrastructure work, which I think was an important and terrific thing for all of us in New England, that we would have the EPA administrator at our largest single power user in New England, by the way, out at Deer Island, talking about energy and conservation and the nexus with water. Now, in the post-era world, you're seeing a lot more of this going on at DEP, where they're now trying through the Clean Energy Results Program. And I want to give a lot of credit to my former General Counsel, Ken Kimmel, who's now the DEP Commissioner, and his deputy, Alicia McDevitt, for their work. They've really come up with a terrific program with a bunch of specific goals, increasing by 50% the amount of renewable energy generated at water treatment plants by 2013, helping 20% of water treatment plants become zero net energy by 2020. That's a pretty big goal when these are big energy hog institutions. I mean, to get them to the point where they are basically, on average, producing as much power as they would use from the grid would be a truly fantastic thing. Energy benchmarking is now being done at all Massachusetts wastewater and waterworks types of facilities, and we're moving forward as a state on a lot more of this type of funding. And it's interesting, we certainly had some grumbling from some in the water community saying, you know, what are we doing in this energy stuff for? It's taking away from whatever my thing was. But now you see a lot of towns and managers coming forward and saying, you know, on average, this can actually save my municipality a fair amount of money. It'll put me out ahead for the long term. Now, a key technology for this that is really, in my view, unfortunately named anaerobic digestion. There's just nothing to love about either of those words, but I would prefer something like organic bioenergy. I'm on a sort of one-man rebranding campaign that so far has not taken any root, but nonetheless, it's all about turning organics, farm, food, yard waste, as well as the organics and wastewater into energy and reclaiming it. Now, here's a stat I've never heard until about a year ago, and it's a fantastic statistic. You know, Germany is famous for wind and solar, right? You hear about it all the time. Biggest solar market in the world, a lot of wind going on. They produce more renewable power from anaerobic digestion. There's 6,000 facilities like this across Germany than wind and solar combined times 2. It's a remarkable stat. Anaerobic digestion, the one renewable technology that you all have heard of, but most of the public has never heard of. It is so much more important to what Germany's doing, which is widely seen as a real leader around the world on these issues. So it's a key component of what Mass DEP is trying to do as well. Their goal is to convert 350,000 tons of organic waste to biogas and increase energy production from these sources to 50 megawatts in a short time period. They're also facilitating for you all as water treatment managers the ability to bring other organic food waste onto your facility, stuff it in the digester, get some more methane, reuse that methane to run your CHP, reduce your electric imports, and do that without having to reopen your permit, which is a great thing in life. So I congratulate Ken and the folks at DEP for doing that. I know you all as an organization have a resolution today or in this conference talking about supporting this general thrust. I encourage you all to, to pass that. So let me take it down a little bit more into detail what it means in practice. I'll use what I know the most, which is what happened out at Deer Island. They have a digester, a set of digesters, and a combined heat and power out there. They're currently upgrading that system with a back pressure turbine, which will increase their electricity generation by 18% and their annual savings of $2.8 million a year. They have wind out at Deer Island. He's flying in and out of Logan. You can't miss those suckers, thankfully. It's a great little symbol of clean energy. You can't miss the one, by the way, in Everett, 1.5 megawatts, the largest urban turbine, I believe, in America. It's a really big wind turbine. As you drive on 93 north, you look over at the Mystic Power Generation Station, and you see this really big wind turbine right next to it. It's really well sited in the middle of basically an industrial area, but that is another MWA project. But they've done the ones out at Deer Island, and there's several more. The FAA has been no help in this regard. They have said to MWA, most inconveniently, you can add one more a year while we keep looking whether this bothers our radar. It's like absolutely perfect for raising costs maximally and making it least convenient. But we did our best to convince the FAA, who were not convinced. Solar at Deer Island and at Carroll treatment facilities, and there's also feasibility studies going across all the MWA facilities for appropriateness for solar. Solar is a great application for wastewater treatment facilities, which generally have big open areas and roofs around them. Trying out some in-pipe hydro, which is pretty exciting, at the Weston Covered Storage Facility, where the water is going through at a rate, and if you can grab some of that kinetic energy and produce electricity, that's a great thing, and that's happening. And then a host of energy efficiency upgrades all throughout. All told, NWA is using about 17 megawatts of renewable energy, and that's a terrific thing after just a few years of really putting their back into it. So today they generate about 23% of the Deer Island electrical use, but overall about 50% of the plant's overall energy use, meaning they're doing better on thermal than they are on electric. MWA is not the only one. There's a lot of others. The Pittsfield don't know if Pittsfield's here, but congratulations. Their wastewater treatment facility is city-owned facility, processes about 10.8 million gallons of wastewater per day from Pittsfield and surrounding communities. They used to spend about $800,000 on energy. With state and federal support, they upgraded their mixing system to a fine bubble aerator, which is a great technology that hopefully you're doing everywhere, and adding a cogen facility, CHP, to its AD system. They ended up saving $347,000 in electric bills. So in the coming years ahead, we're going to spend a lot of money as a nation, I hope, on upgrading and improving our water infrastructure. We need to. You all are far more familiar with those challenges than I am, but we've got some big challenges ahead. In my view, it would be a mistake to ignore the energy footprint of that. We get these opportunities only rarely to try to figure out how can we do something about that part of the environmental puzzle as well. Let me close by talking a bit about some technologies that are here today and others that are entering the marketplace in the years ahead, which I think are exciting things for you all to think about and consider. PMC Biotech is a company most of you probably have not heard of. They're in the business of converting biosolids into enhanced anaerobic digestion yield. And they use this terrific mechanical grinding type of approach as well as a chemical treatment, and then essentially take those biosolids, which, MWA spends maybe $20 million a year, putting that out in a slurry in a tunnel to Quincy, sucking it up, dewatering it, pelletizing it, taking it out on a train. That's a lot of money. If you could stop doing that and in fact increase your methane yield at your AD, that would be a remarkable turning a liability into a benefit. So that's what PMC is doing. Petra Solar getting to be well known for a very large contract in New Jersey where they're doing all these pole-mounted solar. If you think about, we got a lot of utility poles in water treatment facilities. These folks have come up with a very nice technology for putting it right out there on the utility pole at their own cost, and you all just end up getting paid for doing that. New Jersey did a very, very significant installation, hundreds of millions of dollars across the service territory of the PS&G. Flow Design, it's been reported in some of the papers. They have, this is a jet engine turbine. Looks like the back end of a jet engine turbine, the cowled, shrouded type of wind rotor. And they have been working with MWA on a test facility. But this is a technology when it comes out into the marketplace, and it's not commercially available today, that can really be deployed in places where big wind can't necessarily be deployed, whether it be for radar or for lower wind speeds or whatever it might be. So I think it's a very interesting fit for the wastewater treatment community. And finally, Harvest Power is a Waltham-based company that I'm involved with, full disclosure, that is building anaerobic digestion, essentially borrowing what they're doing in Germany and trying to bring it to North America. It's not a coincidence that they're building the largest food waste anaerobic digestion facility in Ontario. I wish they were building it in Massachusetts, but they're building two of these, one in Ontario and the other in British Columbia. Part of it is we don't separate our organics here in the United States generally. I mean, San Francisco is trying some things, but we're not doing very much in that regard. My view is that's something that's going to come. It's an amazing energy resource that we're just throwing down the disposal or in the trash or in the landfill, even worse. And so they're very much involved with that, and they're looking around for facilities in this region as well. So I guess I would sum up by saying, look, this is a very important agenda that I think is only going to grow in importance in the years to come. Everyone in this room has the ability to do something significant about it, and you've got the tools in front of you, and you're starting to see a track record. So it's delightful to have a chance to come talk to you, and I'd be happy to take some questions. Thank you all very much.